Hello, it's Matt from USL Comics, here with another episode. Going solo tonight. I think Josh hasn't arrived on the scene yet, but that's not unlike him. First, USL Comics is your new multi-vendor marketplace selling comics, slabs, omnis, trades, and more. USL Comics, you can sign up and sell for 5% low pay when you sell commission, $5.99 a month, no commission, unlimited bin listings, or run your own auctions for $15.99 a month at uslcomics.com. Sammy's here. Hello, Sammy. How are you? Okay, so we're going to start off with some super sad news. Lance Reddick of The Wire, Fringe, Lost. I don't remember. I watched Lost, but I don't remember him being in Lost. Sammy will be my co-host. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so on St. Patrick's Day, we got the news that Lance Reddick, prolific actor, best known on his work on HBO's The Wire and John Wick movie franchise, which John Wick comes out tomorrow in theaters, and it's getting great reviews. He unfortunately passed away, was reported by TMZ, discovered at his Studio City home Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. The cause of death is currently unclear, but law enforcement says it appears to be natural. He was only 60 years old. Super sad news. Also, he was the voice of Zavala in Destiny. A lot of Destiny players out there. I know I played the first one quite a lot, maybe too much. 1,500 hours, I think, was the last count. Yeah, so unfortunately, I was always hoping that he was gonna end up somewhere in the MCU. I kind of thought if they were gonna recast Xavier for X-Men, he'd be a really good choice. He had the presence and the voice to really bring some gravitas to the role and screen. Also, he is one of my favorite shows, Bosch, which was on. Yeah, it was a lot of hours in Destiny back on PlayStation. But I went for like 2.5 years. I think I played that, so it's a lot of hours. Yeah, okay. So if anyone is interested, one of his charities was momcares.org. His wife came out with a statement saying that if you wanted to help him out or donate in his memory, that'd be great. It was a charity he supported from Baltimore. So momcares.org if you're interested. Jasmine says, yes, Bosch was good. Him as Xavier would be great. Absolutely. It's sad that he never got to be in the MCU. Okay. Moving on. Marvel Studios said to be closing in on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Reddit leaker. Last week we did a story about the subreddit Marvel Studios Spoilers had leaked the Ant-Man Quantumania script like a month before the movie came out, and Marvel wasn't happy about that. Earlier this week, we learned that Marvel Studios has decided to crack down on internet leaks and had filed legal documents seeking a subpoena in an attempt to identify the individual or individuals who shared Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania plot details to Reddit. Now, THR, which is Hollywood Reporter, reports that Marvel is closing in on the source of the leak and fully intends to take legal action. A federal judge in California has issued subpoenas to Reddit and Google, directing them to identify the user's leaked dialogue. This action follows Marvel's attempt to discover who posted the information to popular subreddit Marvel Studios Spoilers, which is now locked and disappeared. We talked about last week how I don't think Reddit should really reveal the name of the users. If they didn't sign an NDA with Marvel Studios specifically, you kind of treat them as a journalist with a source. You should go after the source and not necessarily the Marvel subreddit or the mods of the Marvel subreddit. Yeah, so whoever it was, the mods of the Marvel subreddit should be running and hiding, I guess, right now. But we'll see I don't know that Reddit and Google have always and especially Apple have always tried to protect their users and said no to revealing the identity of their users. Although, Apple always tracks the data of their users. They know who it is, but yeah, I don't know if Reddit's gonna comply with their subpoena. But Marvel is closing in, so be careful. Okay, so last week we also did a story. Early reviews for Gotham Knights was not great. It seems like most critics have now weighed in, and Rotten Tomatoes. Sammy says the leaker should rot in hell. Sorry, not sure if we're playing good host, bad host. Yeah. Okay. Why do you think the leaker should rot in hell? I'm okay with spoilers being out there as long as they're marked as spoilers. Reddit's usually pretty good about, and Reddit users are usually pretty good about hiding that, and you have to click the button to see the spoiler. I tend to stay off. Some people don't really care about spoilers. I have a friend who could care less about spoilers. I try to do my best to stay away. Like the days that like Mandalorian comes out, I stay off the comic book websites and popular pop culture sites. So I don't want to see headlines of like this episode or that episode. And when a Marvel movie comes out, I kind of stay off a couple days after it comes out until I can see it, because I don't want to have something, even a headline, sometimes they get pretty close to spoiling things. So, but other people could care less about spoilers and they're like, yeah, it's fine. So I don't know if you're going to be like, obviously if the leaker had signed an NDA with Marvel and it was like a production assistant or like a script supervisor or something and they leaked it, sure, they should absolutely lose their job and face legal consequences. But if it's someone who got a hold of the script in a way that didn't require them to sign anything, like if someone accidentally left it on the street, engineers from Apple have accidentally left prototype Apple phones in bars for people to accidentally pick up. So, Cyberspace Comics, as a viewer, I don't like spoilers. Yeah, I am 100% with you. As a seller, I like to find them ASAP. Yeah, if you're definitely in the comic book industry, you want to know what's coming or what to spec on. So you can either anticipate that price, raise that price. We're going to talk about not so much a spoiler, but a potential spec for Star Wars coming up in Mandalorian and or Ahsoka. But we'll talk about, I think we're going to talk about it near the end of the show is in the news items for this week. Okay. So Gotham Knights Rotten Tomatoes delivers most brutal critics consensus yet after show debuts with 18%. Gotham Knights reviews have not been good, and that's reflected in the CW series Rotten Tomatoes score and a critics consensus that might just leave you in stitches. You can check it out here. So Rotten Tomatoes remains a divisive platform, but no matter whether you live or die by those all-important percentages or have no time for them, the site's importance can't be understated. Yeah, so we were going to go see 65. We were super excited about 65, and then we saw the review score, which was not good at all, especially the critics. And you can take some critics with a grain of salt, like, well, maybe they don't get it, or it's not made for critics, it's made for fans. And 65 could definitely be one of those, but when I see a score that low for 65, it was like, well, this is a watch at home and not go to the movie. So yes, it can, as divisive as it is, it can definitely affect opening box office and or show ratings, etc. A rotten score can ruin a movie's chances of box office success, and while they don't hold the same level of importance in the television realm, many viewers do still take note. As we're sure you're aware, once enough reviews are counted, Rotten Tomatoes generates a critics' consensus. That's their summary of the verdicts submitted and a quick way for visitors to the site to get a little explanation behind the score. As for this one, while this might be their best effort yet, Gotham Knights premiered on the CW last week, revolving around the murder of Batman and a group of non-costumed teenagers who set out to solve the crime. Weird already. Interest in the show has been minimal and reviews have been poor. Whoever wrote this critics' consensus, however, deserves a raise. Never sent amateurs to do a Batman's job, but the surprisingly brief verdict reads hilariously reads. Perhaps the most noteworthy critics' consensus before this one was for Wonder Woman 1984. The sequel initially received glowing reviews, and that was reflected in the site's summary. Later, when the tide turned and it was deemed rotten, that completely changed. In Gotham Knights, in the wake of Bruce Wayne's murder, his rebellious adopted son forges an unlikely alliance with the children of Batman's enemies when they are all framed for killing the Caped Crusader, and as the city's most wanted criminals, this renegade band of misfits must fight to clear their names. It's weird that he has an adopted kid. I guess maybe they weren't allowed to do Damian, because Damian is going to be reportedly in the new James Gunn DCU Brave and Bold. That Robin is going to be Damian Wayne. So they kind of came up with a new story. I'm not sure who this adopted son of Batman is. And why put in non-costumed heroes in a show about a costumed hero? I'm not really sure why they would do that. I doubt this, like we said last week, I doubt this show lasts past one season. James Gunn seems to want to rebuild the reputation of the DC characters and universe, and this probably isn't the best way to start that. So yeah. Okay, moving on. More casting news for the Sony Spider-Verse. No Time to Die star Ana de Armas reportedly eyed for lead female role in Spider-Man spin-off movie El Muerto. While cameras still haven't begun rolling on Sony's El Muerto, a new report reveals that Ana de Armas from Knives Out is being eyed by the studio to star in the movie alongside rapper and wrestler Bad Bunny. During last year's CinemaCon, Sony Pictures made no mention of Spider-Man 4, but did announce Venom 3 and El Muerto. The former wasn't a shock after success of Venom Let There Be Carnage, which anyone in the chat can talk about whether they liked Venom Let There Be Carnage, if you happen to see it. Though fans were hoping for something a little more exciting than plans for a movie starring an incredibly obscure Spider-Man villain. Based on what we've heard, Sony gave popular rapper and aspiring actor Bad Bunny his pick of characters from the Spider-Man universe and decided to take a crack at bringing El Muerto to life. Given his love of pro wrestling, that's not overly surprising, especially as he's competed at WrestleMania for WWE. Cyberspace says Venom 2 was less than awesome. Yeah, I didn't really like either Venom movies. Woody Harrelson could have been good as Carnage. It wasn't really all that memorable for me. I just remember kind of like, I don't think it was as bad as Morbius first Sony movie, but it wasn't, I don't know, it seemed kind of blah like the first one. Although Tom Hardy is a great actor, I'm not sure why he's not better in that. Getting a better script out of that movie, I don't know. But now we're getting another Sony movie, El Muerto. Screen Geek is reporting that No Time to Die and ballerina star Ana de Armas is being eyed to play the movie's female lead opposite Bad Bunny, Bad Bunny's title character. This would be her first superhero movie, and proves that even after movies like Venom and Morbius, Sony has no trouble attracting A-list talent to its expanding Marvel universe. We're not convinced actors fully understand the difference between that and the MCU, to be honest. Ouch. Are you saying agents don't understand the difference between Sony and Marvel Cinematic Universe? I'm sure the paychecks are different. I would imagine at this point, Sony pays a lot more than Marvel to be in those movies. Marvel kind of has if you're going to call something prestigious in a comic book universe, they're kind of like the top tier right now. Critically, not lately, but for the most part, most movies have been good and launched stars onto bigger and better careers, or revived careers, a la Robert Downey Jr. Considering the fact that El Muerto has only made a handful of appearances on the page, there's really no no one we knew of from his corner of the Marvel Universe who we can say Armis would be a good fit for. Does it seem like a weird thing for Sony to do? Pick an obscure character? I guess, I don't know. Did James Gunn kind of do that with Guardians of the Galaxy? Although it seemed like Guardians were a bit more known in the universe than this El Muerto. I don't know. It seems like a weird thing for Sony to pick of all the Spider-Man things they could do. They pick a weird obscure character. Okay, so Ben Affleck has did an interview with, who did he do an interview with this week? Somebody. The DC Universe is in a new era, and Ben Affleck on directing, and James Gunn's DC Universe says absolutely not. This past fall, Warner Brothers Discovery officially formed. Yeah, we know all that. Where's the good part? Once upon a time, Affleck was set to be a foundational piece of the DCEU, as he was expected to direct a solo Batman movie following the character's debut in 2016's Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Those plans ultimately fell through as DC's solo Caped Crusader franchise pivoted to Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves, but Gunn's clean slate sparked speculation that Affleck could helm The Brave and the Bold, and DC Universe's upcoming the DC Universe's upcoming Bruce and Damian Wayne project. Those rumors have been emphatically shut down by Affleck himself. I would not direct something for Gunn DC, absolutely not, told The Hollywood Reporter. I have nothing against James Gunn, nice guy, sure he's doing a great job. I just wouldn't want to go in and direct in the way they're doing that. I'm not interested in that. This comes 3 months after Gunn confirmed that he had discussions with Affleck about directing a project in his new look DC universe. Gunn noted that both parties wanted Affleck to direct, but they had to find the right project. Affleck's words indicate that his vision for a DC film, regardless of the character, does not gel with the tone and style that Gunn is setting up for this universe. This is kind of weird. I got 3 months ago, like they said, Gunn and Affleck were talking about it. Maybe Affleck didn't like what Gunn said about Zack Snyder, him not understanding the character, or replacing Henry Cavill, which wasn't, I don't know. This is kind of out of left field why he would just say absolutely not. It seems like Gunn is trying to build up a new universe, and starting from scratch isn't a bad thing. I think a lot of fans, excluding the Snyder fans, are looking forward to a clean slate. Given that Shazam 2, which we'll talk about later, completely failed, it seems like it's a good idea to restart. Don't get me wrong, Affleck's a good director, he's a good actor. There's some great movies he's done, Argo, The Town, like we talked about last week. I think his Batman has kind of grown on me. Not sure what the chat thinks, but Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, he was a lot better in. Although Dawn of Justice was not good by any means and kind of a meme, but I don't know. I think he could have done a good job if he continued. I guess we'll see what he's like in The Flash, because he's said to be in that movie. He also did shoot things for Aquaman sequel, but I think that rumor came out that was cut. So I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of disappointing that he's not going to direct something, but I don't know. I'm not sure that. I guess he wasn't the right fit for it. I don't know what tone he's talking about, though. Like, Gunn usually has an adult tone with humor. I guess maybe that's not something. Maybe Affleck wanted something more PG-13 oriented or PG. I don't know. It's fun to speculate. Okay, speaking of more Batman, the Penguin, James Gunn debunks reports Batman can't appear in TV series due to rights issue. So there's a Penguin series with Colin Farrell coming out on HBO Max, which I believe they just started shooting this month. Despite massive changes that have been made to the DCU by Warner Brothers, Discovery, and DC Studios, Matt Reeves' The Batman franchise is set to continue. We don't know whether the filmmaker's ambitious plans for several villain-led HBO Max TV shows will come to fruition, but The Batman 2 has been confirmed, as has The Penguin. The latter is even in the midst of shooting in New York, and it's been mentioned on several occasions now that the plan is for it to bridge the gap between the Batman and its sequel. It's recently reported that Robert Pattinson will return as Bruce Wayne in The Penguin, likely for another confrontation between his Dark Knight and Colin Farrell's Oz. After all, the villain is looking to take Gotham City's underworld and make it its own, bringing the character more in line with his comic book counterpart. Recently, rumors have been swirling online that complicated rights issues prohibit Batman from appearing on the television, hence why we haven't seen him in the likes of Titans and Gotham Knights. But we've seen Batman in... Wasn't he in the crossover Legends of Tomorrow? Crisis on Infinite Earths? Didn't they have a couple of Batmans in there? Seems like... Why, if the CW can do it, why can't Warner Brothers do it? DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn, however, was quick to debunk those claims. Clearly, Batman can appear on TV. Warner Brothers probably just didn't want to lessen the hero's appeal by having him take center stage in less than stellar small screen projects. While Gunn hasn't necessarily confirmed that Pattinson's Batman will be part of the Penguin, we remain convinced that the Cape Crusader will show up at some point. Farrell will be joined in the series by Kristen Milotti as Sophia Falcone, Clancy Brown as Salvatore Maroni. Love that Clancy Brown's in it. Great actor. So the Batman 2 is set to release in October 2025. The Penguin, meanwhile, will likely premiere on HBO Max in 2024. It will be interesting to see how they kind of... If Pattinson's Batman is separate from the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, then do they kind of like completely ignore each other's universes? Do they do like an Elseworld thing, or is it do they end up crossing over into a multiverse thing? I don't know. It's also with the Joker too. I mean, are they going to keep that separate and just ignore it for marketing purposes, that this one doesn't interfere with the other? Okay, so along with more Penguin news, HBO Max confirms a major DC villain will appear in the TV show, along with possible Batman appearance. Jasmine says, I want to see more Pattinson Batman. Doesn't the Flash step into the multiverse thing? Yeah, so I don't know that... I wonder if Pattinson will be in the Flash. We know that... we know that Keaton's in it, and we know that Ben Affleck's in it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it'll be interesting to see if Pattinson's Batman shows up in the Flash, and then I guess it kind of, by the end of that movie, whether they've destroyed all the other worlds or kept them separate by the end, and everyone goes back to their corner, or it's new canon that all these Batman exists, just in different multiverses. Then yeah, I guess we'll have to wait to see how the Flash handles that. So yeah, HBO Max has begun production on their brand new series focusing on one of Batman's greatest foes, the Penguin. The Penguin is set in the very same universe as the Batman. Colin Farrell, we already talked about that. So it's already shooting. Farrell previously teased that his makeup for the series is so much better than the DC film, which is crazy because it was hard to tell in the movie that was Colin Farrell. Like the makeup for the movie was outstanding. I don't know how it could get much better than that. Recent set photos show that he wasn't kidding. With the series currently shooting, it seems that they're rounding out their cast. According to Variety, Michael Zegan, James Matteo, Scott Cohen have all joined the Penguin recurring roles. But it seems that Zegan is actually playing a key character from the comics. The trade is also reporting that the actor is actually playing DC's Alberto Falcone, aka the Holiday Killer. Who is the Holiday Killer? Fandom describes the DC villain as follows. Describes the DC villain as follows. Alberto Falcone is an antagonist in the Batman series from DC Comics, and is often believed to be the serial killer known as the Holiday Killer, so named for committing crimes pertaining to the holidays. He's the son of mob boss Carmine Falcone, and appears as a principal character in both. I might be getting this confused because I don't know all of Batman, but is this not the same thing as the Calendar Man? Are they two separate Someone could let me know in the chat. Is the Holiday Killer different than Calendar Man, or is it just a different name? Because it sounds like they're the same character, but maybe he's called the Calendar Man in Detective. I don't know. My Batman doesn't go that far back. If someone knows in the chat if there's a difference between the two. Okay, so we'll do top 10 and keys of the week right now.
Keys of the week, your top 10.
Okay, so COVR Price's top 10. This week we still have a lot of, so the Spider-Man is still up there from last week. Wakanda, which is the first appearance of Kimmy, that's still in the top 10. Daredevil Born Again started shooting this week, so Daredevil Punisher is now in the top 10. First Daredevil Punisher fight. A newsstand goes for only $4.99. Pretty cheap so far. What's a 9.8 going for? $157. Oh, it's also a rare newsstand variant. Oh, but it's an auction, so it might go higher than $157. Yeah, so we know John Bernthal is back as Punisher. So that's why that's going. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is back in the top 10. When James Gunn first talked about DCU, and the announcement of the Supergirl movie, it was kind of implied that it was going to be based on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Let's see what that's going for these days. An auction is, where's the buy it now? Buy it now, $174 for 9.8. I don't know, is that cheap? I guess people really like this Tom King version. I tried to find some back issues at my local comic shop, and someone had already snatched them all up a couple of months before. So I guess he had a premonition that Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow was going to be the next big spec. Let's have another Punisher top 10 this week. What's this one? Punisher 218, Lenticular. It's a War Machine Homage MCU cover. I'm not sure why this is in the top 10. Is there like a rumor going around that he's going to be in the War Machine movie, TV series? I'm not sure where that landed at for Armor Wars, if it's going to be TV or movie. I think it started as a TV show and then they said it's going to be a movie. I don't know where that's at now. But those are your top 10. COVR Price. Good Asian still in the top 10. The first appearance of Damian Wayne is still in the top 10. Yeah. What's that going for? $53. Oh, and it's a cameo appearance. $31, 9.4. Is there any buy it nows? Near mint minus first appearance, best offer, buy it now, $70. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do keys of the week in stores. Well, it was yesterday. Deceased War of the Undead Gods #7, cover art inspired by the Prince album Purple Rain. Well, that's sweet. Milestone 30th Anniversary Special #1. First appearance of Static Beyond, an older version of Virgil Hawkins. Anthology of stories including Static and the Batman team-up in the style of Static Shock animated series. What else is in here? Future story of Rocket inheriting the icon mantle. Alternate reality story of Milestone characters today meeting their 1993 counterparts. Cover art inspired by Flash 123. Dead Romans #1. A Germanic prince and 50,000 Romans have waged war against an empire to establish a new queen who doesn't want to sit on the throne. This one I'm super excited about. I made sure I pre-ordered it at the local comic shop, and I also got another variant cover. I read a lot of Roman history stuff, and this Rome is one of my favorite shows ever, so yeah. So I'm super excited to read that. Neighbors #1, a horror story described by the writer as the terror that shadows queer and trans people who are raising families in 2022. Order and outrage #1 in an optimized society of citizens who have had the financial means to benefit from gene therapy. A seed rebellion, independence, and outrage awakens. Cyberspace asks, ever play Season 3? Yes. On my, God, what was that? Was it 46 I had at the time? Old PC 46. Or was it a Pentium? It was so long ago as a kid. But yeah, Season 3 was one of the things I played. There's a newer game called Imperator that I kind of dabbled in it. It's got a steep learning curve, but it's something I want to start playing around with. Also, Total War Rome 2. I played a bit. That's fun. Yes, Roman history is where it's at. Pop's Chocolate Shop of Horrors, anthology of horror stories set in Pop Tate's Diner. Batman One Bad Day, Ra's al Ghul, final entry of the One Bad Day one shots. If you haven't had a chance to check out any of the Batman One Bad Days so far, they've all been really good. Last month was Clayface, and that was also another great issue. I did pick up Batman One Bad Day this week. Today, actually. Yeah, today. Cyberspace, those Archie horror books do pretty well. Guess you can speak to this. Are Archie comics still really big? Are they very, is it more older Archie comics do better than new stuff? Like, I remember reading Archie as a kid. Well, I guess maybe Riverdale maybe helps with that. I don't know. DC's Legion of Bloom #1. There aren't a lot of them posted online typically. Oh. So most Archie collectors never sell their Archie collections? They do have a strong fan base that always looking for issues. Oh, interesting. That is interesting. DC's Legion of Blue #1, anthology of stories featuring DC's plant-related characters. Superman #2, first appearance of Marilyn Moonlight, the spirit of Metropolis. First full appearance of Graft. Second cameo appearance of Dr. Farm. Cyberspace, maybe. I think they just have lower print runs. So that's, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense too. Avengers #9, facsimile reprint of Avengers #9, the first appearance of Wonder Man. We all know that TV series is coming. Doctor Strange #1 reboots again with the premiere issue Doctor Strange #1. She-Hulk #11, first appearance of Scoundrel, and Women of Marvel #1, an anthology of stories. Okay, so those were your top 10 marketplace and keys of the week in stores last night and today. Okay, so there's been rumors going around that Mephisto is finally coming to the MCU. Everyone thought it was going to be in WandaVision with Agatha. Still hasn't happened. They kept kind of teasing it with the Darkhold, etc., etc. It looks like Sacha Baron Cohen, even though they haven't announced that yet or confirmed it, it seems like there's a lot of fire around his name and being cast as Mephisto. Fans were convinced Mephisto was going to be behind the mysterious goings on in WandaVision right up until the finale, but the demonic villain was nowhere to be seen. Now it's looking more and more likely that the character is going to be seen everywhere over the next few years. Those casting still hasn't been officially announced. Sacha Baron Cohen is expected to make his MCU debut as Mephisto in Agatha Coven of Chaos, and it seems the Marvel Studios may have seized the opportunity to film a special presentation featuring the villain during production. According to Above the Lines Jeff Snyder, this guy has all the news every week. This guy is talking about something. On the latest episode of John Roach's The Hot Mic, he told me there's a Mephisto special filming on the set of Agatha House of Harkness. It sounds like they may be doing his very own special. If this is accurate, you can probably expect the trades to weigh in soon. Mephisto is also said to be the main baddie of the upcoming Ironheart series. We know Coven of Chaos will star Catherine Hahn in the title role, along with Maria Dizia, Sashir Zamata, and Emma Caulfield Ford, reprising her WandaVision role as Dottie. Aubrey Plaza is on board as a villain of the piece, and according to a recent rumor, the Legion alum will be playing Morgan Le Fay. Oh, sweet. Aubrey Plaza is great. Yeah, I thought that too. Mephisto was an odd choice to throw into Ironheart. Maybe it's a little more smoke than fire there, and like they just got it wrong that it's going to be Mephisto in Coven of Chaos instead of Ironheart. It is weird to throw him into, because they're it's not magic, it's tech, so that is weird. But Sacha Baron Cohen's fantastic choice to play Mephisto. I'll have a lot of fun with that role. Okay, so Shazam came out, and a lot of news came out afterwards. Mostly people unhappy who worked on the movie. Says, don't Ironheart and the Hood have history together? I never really read Ironheart, so I am unsure. I will defer to you on that. Maybe they'll say the Hood gets his powers from Mephisto instead of Dormammu. Oh, okay. Do you know if Ironheart does well? I mean, does she currently does Riri currently have a solo series going, or is it done for now? So a couple things came out about Shazam. First, we'll talk about the director. He tweeted, I don't think she does. So it didn't do great at the box office, whether that's because people I really liked the first Shazam. I thought it was probably one of the better DC movies, actually. Wonder Woman was really good, the first one, right up until the last 20 minutes, and then it dropped off for me. But of all of them, Shazam was probably the most fun, which I would agree with. And Helen Mirren's being in Shazam 2 is great, along with what's the other woman's name? I can't remember her name. The other actress in it. Long range projections for Shazam: Fear of the Gods were never what you'd call encouraging, but the DC Comics sequel now looks set to make even less than the originally predicted. Based on Friday's takings, the movie is expected to finish the weekend with $30 million domestic. Overseas earnings should be a little better, but unless Fear of the Gods proves to have surprisingly strong legs, the studio may have another flop on its hands. Director David F. Sandberg was tagged in a Reddit thread about the film's underwhelming opening weekend and responded with the following. No worries, it's not like this comes as a surprise. I saw where this was heading a long time ago. I'll be all right, though. I got paid all of my money up front. Lucy Liu. Correct. I couldn't remember her name. Very interesting response for sure. It sounds like Sandberg, for whatever reason, always had an inkling that the movie wasn't going to perform very well at the box office. The star Zachary Levi also commented on the debut and possibility of a third movie being adapted in the DCU. He said it's all going to come down to box office, just like every other movie ever made. So let's encourage folks to go treat themselves to a night at the movies watching Shazam. There won't be a bummer to worry about. So after the director and Levi came out with that, yesterday we got the news that it's going to be on digital in 2 weeks. Yeah, less than a month after it came out, almost. It's going to be on digital. So after less than stellar reviews and an abysmal opening weekend at the box office, it looks like Shazam: Fear of the Gods may be hitting digital platforms in no time at all, according to the film's page on Prime Video. The Zach Levi starring follow-up will be available for purchase beginning April 17th at 11 p.m. Central Time. That means the film will have just 1 month exclusive in theaters before hitting digital platforms, shorter time frame than even the newest pandemic-era theatrical windows. I guess they kind of see the writing on the wall and was like, let's try and ride the wave and get some digital rentals and sales out of it before it goes away, I guess, out of people's mind. I mean, it's going to be hard pressed to stay in the kind of the top 5 with John Wick coming out and this week, and then Dungeons and Dragons, which is getting stellar reviews from early reviews. So that might be like an under the radar, like huge hit. So maybe they're like, well, let's try and get something out of it before the other two. Let's try and get some rentals out of it before it leaves the mind of people. Like, oh yeah, Shazam 2 is in theaters, but have other things to see in theaters. So the last thing on Shazam Fear the Gods was he doesn't like Zack Snyder fans. Despite the sequel only being in theaters for a matter of days, Shazam Fear the Gods may have already set a digital release. Shazam Fear the Gods, we arrived in past weekend. We know that it's coming out April 18th on digital. Zachary Levi has taken aim at some DC's toxic fans, talking on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz. Levi started by taking aim at the negative to be negative people he believes have found fault with some of his past critiques of other superhero franchises. Quote, there's a whole contingent of comic book fans that it's really unfortunate that there's this one particular group of people that think they don't like me because I don't agree with them on another comic book movie. The actor continued, you know who I'm talking about, but instead of there being a conversation, they take up so many of my words or things completely out of context, and then they go stir up all the other people that they know online, and they all just want to attack and attack and attack and attack. It's really sad because this is just one example of so many examples of the amount of just venom and toxicity and bullying that goes on in these cyber dimensions. We're not 100% sure that what Levi is referring to here, especially when most of the backlash he's faced on social media has actually been related to a stance on the still divisive COVID vaccine. While there's some truth to what both the Shazam actor and David Sandberg have said, this does somewhat come across like blaming fans for Shazam Fear the Gods' failings. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm not in the depths of the internet, but I don't think it was so much about Zachary Levi as a person, more about the lack of enthusiasm for DC at this point, and that people, the DC fans who are into it know, or at least into the universe, know that this isn't gonna matter at some point. And I don't know, it seems like he's referring to Zack Snyder fans, but there are certainly a contingent of internet bots that love the Snyder universe. Sammy says, sorry, I'm back. I haven't seen Shazam. Is it good? I want to see it. I think you're right. No enthusiasm, especially since it sounds like they're changing gears in DCU. I personally haven't seen it. Cyberspace has seen it, said it was really fun. Like the first one was really fun. I enjoyed that one. I have kind of, like the others, have lost enthusiasm for the DCU. I also have lost enthusiasm for going to theaters. Like, my wife and I tried to go to Ant-Man, I don't know, 10:30 on a Monday, and there was still like a ton of people talking. Like we're very much not people who will tolerate talking during a movie in a theater, so we try to limit what movies we go to see in theaters, and also when we go see them, we'll usually try and go to a movie 2 or 3 weeks after it comes out. So we're kind of behind on Marvel or etc. We waited 2 weeks to see Ant-Man because of that. So although my mother-in-law is super excited for John Wick, so we have to go see it opening weekend. Cyberspace says new DCEU movies are odd. It's like when knowing an upcoming TV series was canceled before it hit. Why would you watch? Jonathan says I went today. It was wonderful and empty for Shazam 2. Yeah, maybe we will go see it if no one's going to see it. There's no one going to be talking during the movie. Yeah, you know what? The same thing happened to us with 1899 and Dark. Like when Dark came out on Netflix, we started watching it because we loved Dark. 1899 because we loved Dark, And we got 3 episodes in and Reddit was canceled. Like, why would we finish this? Like, what's the point? It was slated for 3 seasons. It's going to end with questions. Why waste the time and not get the answer to those questions? I suppose that could be the same thing with Shazam 2. I think The Flash might be different, although I don't know, because as good as the Flash trailer looks, and I love Michael Keaton being back, I find it a really hard thing to support Ezra Miller. So, I mean, I'll watch it at home. I would like to watch it in theaters, but I don't know that I can feel good about giving DC money for that movie. As good as like reviews, so far reviews or early reports is that movie is fantastic, and that's why DC and Warner Brothers kept it, despite Ezra Miller being a total garbage human being. But I don't know. That might, people might just forget about that and do it anyways. Yeah, and I would agree. You have to separate the art from the artist. Yeah, it's an interesting ethical question about supporting. There are obviously other actors in that movie that are that you like Michael Keaton, Michael Shannon, that you'd want to support, but the main character you don't want to support. So yeah, it's a question everybody's going to have to answer for themselves, whether they want to give Warner Brothers their money for that movie or not. Yeah, I mean, the trailer looks fantastic, which seems like it might do well just on that anyways. Okay, so one more article about Shazam before we go on to other topics. Zachary Levi is mad at The Rock and blames The Rock for everything. Recently, Shazam Fear the Gods director Sandberg revealed that he planned to include Justice Society characters in the sequel's mid-credits scene, only to learn 3 days before cameras rolled that he was no longer allowed to do so. Excuse me. Who put the brakes on that? According to The Wrap, it was Johnson. In a piece that accuses Johnson of having kneecapped both Black Adam and Shazam franchises with his actions, it's revealed that the actor vetoed plans for Hawkman and other members of the Justice Society team to appear in the movie. Dwayne tries to sell himself as bigger than the movie. One insider tells the trade he's one of the few people who always thinks he is the most important person in any situation or room. Instead of making a movie, he wants to extend his brand and make a brand centered on himself. Another adds, by alienating the established property that his character was born out of and refusing to integrate with other established characters, Johnson systematically crippled 2 franchises and has harmed DC in the process. We don't know why Johnson was so against a Shazam crossover, but have to assume he didn't want to share the spotlight or felt 2 characters wouldn't mix well, which contradicts decades of comic book history. Both Black Adam and Shazam had issues beyond the former's lead, but it seems his actions have indeed hurt both franchises. Remember, he went around DC Films brass to get Superman and Black Adam, so it's no wonder that James Gunn and Peter Safran weren't keen to bring him into the DC fold. And as the trade points out, many in Hollywood are now questioning whether Johnson is still the box office draw he once was, suggesting he's hurt himself in all this as well. It does seem really odd to me that he has campaigned to play a Black Adam for years and was like, but I don't want to have anything to do with Shazam. I believe this story. I probably feel like he thought Black Adam is going to be more adult and Shazam is fun, and he doesn't want to be near the fun for his angry anti-hero. I don't know. I generally like most Rock movies. Some, I mean, they're never going to be Oscar nominated movies, but they're fun action for the most part. I didn't mind Black Adam that much. It seems kind of like a straightforward superhero movie. There was some kind of annoying things about it, but the action was fine. I thought he was fine as Black Adam. But if you're going to be in a universe, dude, you gotta, like, own it and interact with other characters in that universe, not just yourself. So maybe it's good that he is no longer part of the DCU. He didn't play well with others. But then again, he brought Henry Cavill back to like give fans a boost for a mid-credit scene and hope that Henry Cavill will be back as Superman. So I don't know. It seems like if he wants to come back as a part of the DCU, he's going to have to learn to not be the center of attention in every movie. Like, he's got to be part of an ensemble cadre of characters, and it's not just about him. And Black Adam's clearly not the biggest character in that. You have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Like, you're going to be playing second fiddle to those characters if you're going to be part of the universe. Okay. A couple more articles and then we'll call it a night. X-Men 97 story details reveal more about Wolverine, Storm, and Magneto's battle with Mr. Sinister. Brief synopsis for Marvel Studios' X-Men the Animated Series Revival has offered a better idea of what to expect when Wolverine, Storm, and Magneto find themselves battling the evil Mr. Sinister. So we know they're continuing. Disney Plus is coming out with X-Men 97, which is a continuation of the beloved animated show from 92. And all we know right now is that it's listed as coming soon on Disney Plus, so it hopefully won't be too long before we get an official update. A lot of reports have said it's probably going to be September, which would be amazing. In the meantime, X-Men Update Twitter account has shared a synopsis for X-Men 97, which they say was revealed during the recent X-Men 60 Uncanny Years live virtual event. I got an invite for that and I didn't go. Did anyone in the chat happen to go to that live stream? I think Chris Claremont was a guest on the live stream. And I guess they also talked about this. So the synopsis reads, Storm and Wolverine try to continue the X-Men. Magneto comes in and wants to step up for Charles Xavier. Sinister comes in to try to end the X-Men once and for all. We know Professor X headed off into space at the end of the original series with Lilandra. And it's believed he'll be missing when the X-Men animated series follow-up begins. Yeah, so super excited about that. Hopefully we get it soon. Yeah, and I hope they have the theme song back. They gotta have the original theme song back. Okay. Batman 2 news. We all know that Batman 2 got greenlit. Well, signed off on, despite James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over. So we also know that now that insider Daniel Rickman is reporting that Paul Dano and Colin Farrell both signed up to reprise their respective roles. The latter was to be expected, though we are surprised Edward Nashton is coming back so soon. The last time we saw him, Mr. Joker had been in prison at Arkham Asylum and found an unexpected ally, Barry Keoghan's Joker prototype. While the Clown Prince of Crime could take center stage in the Batman 2, we'd argue that using that villain again might feel too similar to the Dark Knight. Yeah, it is strange that, like, it's the Batman had the best, at least I don't know what the chat thinks, but the best iteration of the Riddler in any kind of television or film format. Paul Dano was, I thought, really, really great and had a great take on the Riddler. He also is writing a comic book called The Riddler that's been pretty good. I think it's on to issue 3 or 4 now. So that's been pretty good. I'm surprised he's coming back, whether he's going to be a mainstay in the movie or just kind of he's in the opening scene to pass the torch off to someone else like the Joker. We don't know. So maybe it's just a cameo or a small part. But yeah, totally fine with him coming back. Should be fun. Okay, last story, and it's kind of a big one. Marvel Studios veteran producer Victoria Alonso has left the studio. This was reported on 2 days ago. Marvel Studios executive Victoria Alonso has exited the studio. Variety has confirmed. She joined Marvel Studios in 2006 as Executive Vice President of Visual Effects and Post-Production, serving as co-producer on early Marvel Cinematic Universe films like Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America: The First Avenger. Since then, Alonso has worked as an executive producer on every Marvel Studios film and TV show since 2012's The Avengers. In 2015, Alonso was promoted to Executive VP of Production, and in 2021, she was up to President of Physical Post-Production, Visual Effects, and Animation. It's a lot of things to manage at Marvel Studios. In her role, she oversaw all of Marvel's post-production, including its visual effects work, which has come under repeated and vociferous criticism by visual effects professionals. Most recently, the special effects in last month's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania came under fire, and reviews for the film were notably more negative than previous Marvel movies. The third installment of the Ant-Man franchise had its largest opening weekend ever at $105 million, but fell below 2015's Ant-Man and its sequel at the worldwide box office. Last year, TV series She-Hulk: Attorney at Law also received some backlash for the look of the titular green hero among the devoted MCU fans. Despite her sudden exit on Friday, Alonso is credited as a producer on the upcoming Marvel films Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Marvels, plus the Disney shows Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Echo, and Agatha: Coven of Chaos. In addition to her work with Marvel, she's also producer on Argentina 1985, which won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film and received an Oscar nom. Alonso has been named multiple times Variety's Power of Women LA Impact Report. Last June, Variety exclusively announced that she had written a memoir titled Possibility is Your Superpower about her Hollywood career after growing up in La Plata, Argentina. Quote, "You don't need a cape, you don't need a hammer, you don't need a shield. Your superpower is your voice, and your voice will create change for yourself, for society, and for those who love you, who you love." Alonso said, "If you use your voice, you will create the kind of energy that will bring change to us. To not use your voice is silence, silence is poison." So there are a couple things about this. One, the visual effects had been getting worse. Whether that was her or putting too many deadlines too close together on all the visual effects studios that they hire. A couple weeks ago when Josh and I were talking about the credits of Ant-Man and how there was 30 companies that had done visual effects in the credits for Ant-Man, it seemed impossible to me that you're always going to get a certain style throughout the movie of the same visual effects and quality. It's pretty hard to manage 30 different studios along with all of the subcontractors that those studios have. I have a friend who works in the visual effects business, and he has talked about how he gets subcontracted by a subcontractor and then he doesn't get a credit in the movie because there's a limit of what the guild will let you get a credit on if you're a subcontractor versus a contractor. There have also been reports that she isn't very nice to people, and has kind of had a toxic work environment. If you were on her good side, then you got promoted, you did well, but if you were on her bad side, you were blacklisted and didn't get work as a visual effects company or artist. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I know we have talked in the past couple years since we've been doing the show that a lot of visual effects companies either have a lot of gripes with Marvel or won't work with Marvel anymore because of the tight deadlines or not knowing what they want, or they make too many changes with not enough time. Whether this is kind of like, well, this was Ant-Man was going to be your last straw and they said you should leave. Exits doesn't say she was fired, and Exit doesn't say she resigned. Exit doesn't really say either way whether she was fired or decided to leave on her own, or maybe both sides thought it was best for her to kneel on the sword, I guess, for all the problems with visual effects in the last year. It'll be interesting to see, like, obviously she has a number of projects that she's still credited for with visual effects, like Secret Invasion, Marvels, etc. But if we get a definable, after those credits are over and those projects have come out, do we get a noticeable improvement on visual effects? And with the new person who takes over, I kind of think at this point, and Josh and I have talked about this before, that Marvel Studios probably has to make their own visual effects studio, a la Industrial Light and Magic and what Lucasfilm did. They should probably put together a gigantic studio of visual effects artists that gives them enough time to do the work, to do quality work, and not have an unbalanced quality across 30 different visual effects companies. Like, I'm even huge game studios these days farm out work to smaller studios, but there's a head studio and it's usually one or two that does it, not 30. So it's probably a better idea to create their own visual effects studio that just works on Marvel movies. They might save money doing that too in the long run, because they're not getting charged a ton of money by visual effects studios, because they know Marvel has to hire these companies that do it. They're kind of in a bind. So so I guess in about a year and a half, we'll see whether the new guy or girl, whoever takes over, if there's a noticeable change in quality. And then Bob Iger also talked about spacing things out along with Kevin Feige. It's got to be quality over quantity now. So maybe that comes in tow with the new visual effects guy. So, okay. So that was the show this week. Thanks everyone for joining us. Appreciate you all. Give a like, subscribe. Also check out the website, uselesscomics.com, if you want to buy or sell comics. And we will be back next Tuesday. I think Josh will be back. But if not, it'll just be me. Anyways, thanks. Have a good night.